The air around the palace feels heavier than usual, as if the walls know what the family will not say aloud. Footmen move with practiced calm. Courtiers exchange bland smiles that hide the heat of whispered briefings. A line item deep in a red box becomes a live wire. One sentence inside a draft statement carries the weight of a dynasty. A brother steps back from a title that once announced him to the world before his name could. The Duke of York becomes a phrase the press cannot touch without flinching. The public sees the headline. The family feels the earthquake. In the center of that slow-moving storm stands a woman who never traded on a crown and never needed one. Zara Tindall carries mud on her boots and medals on her mind. She carries laughter that lives far from palace balconies. She carries a reputation earned the hard way, fence by fence, season by season, scandal nowhere in sight. And then there is the sister. The Princess Royal moves like steel under silk. Schedules on schedules. Ribbons cut. Hands shaken. Country fairs and state banquets. A life built on service rather than show. She has watched a brother tilt the institution toward danger. She has watched a mother bear that strain with a smile that never slipped. She has watched a new king inherit more than a throne. The clock strikes on a cool October day. A statement goes out. A familiar title is set aside. The words are calm and dutiful. The undertow is not. Outside, reporters assemble phrases that have been sitting in their drafts for years. Inside, an older sister closes a folder and decides that patience is no longer a virtue. She has already heard every excuse. She has already met every promise of quiet that never held. She has already weighed loyalty against responsibility and found that loyalty is not surrender. The Princess Royal speaks plainly in private. Her language is duty and consequence. It has always been duty and consequence. Around the family, commentators step forward with tidy sentences to explain a mess that has no tidy version. Biographers reach for decades of anecdotes and assemble a portrait that looks familiar and unflattering. The favored son narrative. The shield of a mother. The abrupt exposure when that shield is gone. The habit of deflection that outlasts its protection. All of it lives now in the same sentence as Duke of York. There is a conversation every old institution eventually has with itself. Who are we? What do we reward? What do we protect? The monarchy prefers to have that conversation slowly, behind doors, with the minutes sealed for a century. This time, the conversation steps into the hall and keeps walking. The Princess Royal aligns with a king who sees the horizon and the cliff in equal measure. The air, raised on the lessons of image and impact, aligns as well. The family understands that silence can be mistaken for consent. They begin to act with the urgency of people who know that reputation does not repair itself. Some moves are symbolic. Some symbols are thunder. Titles in this family are not just words. They are banners on maps, chapters in schoolbooks, shorthand for centuries of triumph and error. To move a title is to move a story. The Princess Royal understands stories. She has lived in one against her will and bent it toward usefulness through sheer force of work. The idea arrives in the room like a candle that quickly becomes a fire. If a title has been hollowed out by misconduct and endless scrutiny, perhaps the only way to save its meaning is to place it on shoulders that can carry it. Not as a reward for birth, as a declaration of values. Not as indulgence, as accountability. Zara lives outside the apparatus by design. Her mother refused the glittering trap long ago. No lady-in-waiting. No daily court circular. No automatic deference. Just a life you can measure in early mornings at the yard and long drives with a horsebox and school runs that do not require a press officer. A life that is both ordinary and impossible. Handing her a title would mean something louder than ceremony. It would say that service counts more than second chances extended past reason. It would say that the family can change without losing itself. It would say that the word York belongs to citizens who want the name on their skyline to stand for resilience rather than rumor. It would say that the crown remembers the difference between privilege and permission. Inside the palace, every option carries risk. Keep the title as an empty relic, and the institution looks passive. Retire it to the shadows and the vacuum becomes its own headline. Transfer it, and the critics will shout about reinvention as punishment. Every path draws ire. Only one path draws respect. The Princess Royal has never chased applause. She pursues function. She knows the cost of ceremonies that demand smiles from a public who has given enough of its patience. She knows that the path forward is narrower than it looks. She knows that the other shoe can still drop, and when it does, the family will need an answer already enacted rather than drafted overnight. York is not just a word. It is a city with streets that pulse with life and markets that smell of baked bread and diesel and rain. It is a cathedral that tells time in stone. It is a rugby match in winterlight. It is laughter outside pubs older than most flags. A duchy once, a dukedom now, a brand that outlives any individual who wears it. The Princess Royal imagines that name carried by a woman who has never let a team down. She imagines that name associated with sweat and steadiness, with a face that smiles with its eyes and speaks only when there is something worth saying. The king, measured, careful, deeply aware of history, listens more than he speaks. He has been remaking the institution with small strokes and occasional bold ones. He knows that a gesture can read as vanity if it begins and ends with sentiment. He knows that a gesture can become policy if it reflects a principle he is willing to defend tomorrow, next year, a decade from now. He tallies the pressures others cannot see. He hears his sister's quiet force and his son's guarded resolve. He remembers the warmth of a niece who shows up without being asked and never asks for anything in return. The press caravan circles, noses high for blood or bomb. The cycle demands narrative arcs with neat turns. In reality, the arc is a series of contested inches. An older sister is done with inches. She wants a mile. She is willing to stand in the draft. For years, the public watched one royal misstep become another, watched humility arrive too late or not at all, watched lawyers speak where contrition should have lived. The nation has tired eyes. It will read a new headline with suspicion. It will watch actions longer than it reads words. The Princess Royal understands that as well as any elected minister. She knows that legitimacy is a daily earned thing. The palace machine hums. Drafts are written and destroyed. Protocol advisors consult archaic precedents no one has touched since telegrams. Heralds consider how one line of calligraphy might replace another without turning history into collage. Communications directors weigh language that signals firmness without cruelty. The family stands at a window and pretends to admire the gardens because people need somewhere to look while decisions form. Zara continues to live the day she planned before any of this began. Early start. Horses first. Children next. She knows that the public responds to someone who treats fame as weather rather than climate. She knows that her mother taught her how to keep oxygen in her life. If a title is offered, it will not change the work in front of her. If a title is not offered, it will not change the work in front of her. That is why the offer carries weight. The sister pushes not from anger alone but from love for an institution tough enough to survive honesty. She remembers the look on the faces of quietly furious veterans when one of their own embarrassed the uniform by proxy. She remembers the letters from people who give their lives to community and expect the same from those born to representation. She hears the grumble in a country lane and the murmur in a London black cab and the polite understatement that means something serious in every village hall. She translates that into motion. Others will say this is revenge or theater. They miss the point. Accountability is not spectacle. It is the patient work of aligning symbols with truths. When a symbol drifts too far, either pull it back or let it go. The Princess Royal lives in that sentence. There is family pain inside all of this. Siblings sort through childhood and habit, pecking order and protective myths. The favored child loses the favor of time and consequence. The elder ones, trained by a father who measured worth in action, try to pull the story back toward the straight and narrow. None of this is simple.